suitable for general family viewing.
Is more than 2 million hectares of this surface area. Plantation forests occupy less than 5%. In July this year, the government lifted the 6-year-old logging ban, and we are in Kiptunga Forest within the plantation section where sawmillers are harvesting the over-matured trees. We are here to take you behind the scenes to show you where these trees will go and what economic benefit they have to this country. I am Bridget Ngana, and this is Earthwise. Kenya's commercial exploitation of wood resources dates back to the colonial and post-colonial era. By the close of 2021, the National Forest Resources Assessment Report revealed that Kenya's tree cover now stands at 12.13%, while forest cover is at 8.83%. The rise in forest cover has been attributed to a 2018 moratorium on commercial harvesting of trees in the plantation forests. But the Ogiek, an indigenous forest-dwelling community, tell a different tale of life in an ever-changing forest.
Climate Voices in association with Equity Bank.
Kusema ukweli, msitu umebadilika tangu tulipopata uhuru. In fact, nilikuwa naongea hata kabla ya uhuru ndio msitu labda ilikuwa inashikiliwa sana na jamii na ilikuwa inaheshimika sana. So tulipopata uhuru, serikali walikuja akachukua mamlaka na akachukua ile msitu wote bila hata kujali jamii na kuita the state forest. So wakati walikuja na policies zao, walikuja na sera zao ambapo labda pengine walitaka sehemu zingine ibadilishwe kuwa plantations. Most of the indigenous forests wakati ule kuanzia 1950s zilikatwa kuweza kutafuta nafasi ya kupanda the plantations. So unakuta wakati wa msitu kubwa ilikatwa, hasa hapa kwa barabara hapo kwa mahali mmepitia kuna msitu ilikatwa hapo, na hata ukienda ndani ya ile plantations utapata visiki ya miti ambao ni kubwa ni evidence kwamba hapo ilikuwa ni msitu ya kiasili. Kwa hivyo kumekuwa na mabadiliko makubwa, sababu wakati hizo zilikatwa walipanda hizo exotic trees, na pia kwa upande wetu tukakuwa affected zaidi sababu mambo na asali ilirudi chini, sababu mimea ambayo labda ilikuwa inategemewa na nyuki kutafuta maua na kuweka asali silipungua. Kwa hivyo tukaona ilibadilika.
Jina yangu naitwa Tyson Mbogo, niko na 30 years. Nafanya biashara ya propagation of grafted fruit trees or multiplication of different seedlings. Usaidizi wangu wa Equity Bank, kwanza niongelelea program yao ya FARSAT ambayo imenifunza mambo na budgeting, record keeping na management, vile naweza manage funds zangu. Wamenisaidia kupanua biashara yangu. Nilianza na shilingi 3,000 na nilikuwa na miche 300. Walinisaidia kifedha kukuza biashara yangu, kumultiply. Ndio maana unaona kutoka seedlings 300 nimeweza kuachieve 57,000 seedlings. On 2015 ndio nilipata my first credit kutoka Equity Bank 400,000 kuendeleza biashara yangu. Nilisumbuka sana na maji, bado nikatembea pale Equity Bank, ilikuwa bado na loan na wakaweza kuniongezea pesa zingine. Because of climate change nilihitaji kupata another source of water ambayo niliweza kuchimba shallow well, kuinstall submersive pumps, stima. Through FARSAT walinifundisha nikaweza kudiversify. Nimediversify na nimekuwa agent wa supply nuts to processing factories, of which nanunuaga tani 3 kila siku za nuts hii macadamia from the same education ambayo nilipata kutoka kwa FARSAT. Nimeplan for the future. Niko na mpango wa kununua dryers ambazo nitakuwa nikikausha macadamia. The next 5 to 10 years naweza kuwa na factory.
Climate Voices in association with Equity Bank.
According to the Kenya Forest Service, gazetted forests cover 2.49 million hectares, with plantation forests comprising 150,000 hectares. Plantation forests have exotic tree species such as cypress, pine and eucalyptus that are usually harvested every 25 to 30 years. The lifting of the logging moratorium opened a flood of criticism directed at the government, many concerned that the move would reverse the gains made in forest protection.
The lifting of the ban barely 6 years after it was initiated versus what we have achieved in terms of forest cover still does not look good. We are looking at achieving a minimum of 10% forest cover, but still we are below that and we are already lifting the ban. I would suggest that where we have done well under the improvement of this, the government gazetted forests, we leave them as they are, and then we give incentives to farmers or those who are interested, including the Kenya Association of Manufacturers who are interested in this particular timber products, to have woodlots whereby they can be able to grow they can be able to grow trees for harvesting for their use and for the sustainability of the needs of the current generation, while we safeguard the forests, both the natural forests and this government gazetted forest.
But despite the opposition, the government refuses to blink, arguing that at least 26,000 hectares of plantation forest is rotting away. We're inside the overgrown and mature section of the Bahati forest that is about 50 hectares large, and this is one of the trees that would have been harvested, but it has been caught in 2 moratoriums. Now, the forester here tells us that even if they harvest this tree, its value has greatly depreciated since it has started rotting.
So your sound inamaanisha?
So that's meosha.
These are some of the cypress trees that have been harvested from the Makutano forest in Kericho County. And to understand the quality of the tree and how they've been affected by the successive moratoriums is this. First, a clean, clear tree that could produce good timber is this one. If you look at it, there is no sense of any rotting in the tree. They are 19 years overly matured, and so when you look at that and the impact it has on the tree, this is what rotting means. And according to KFS, the quality of timber from this tree is already compromised, and I'm not even sure I'll be able to even get enough timber from this tree.
Plantation crop, once planted, is just like maize. If you plant your maize and at the end of the year, if you don't harvest your maize, then you don't have food to eat. So plantation forest has a given rotation age, whereby when it reaches maturity, the growth of a tree stops, and then it starts degenerating until it rots. So for KFS to reap the benefits or the investment that they have put into plantation, the trees have to be harvested procedurally once they have been procured, and then they harvest, they remove, we replant. At the site where we are right away is a plantation that is being harvested. This plantation was planted in 1974. It is almost 49 years old. In normal rotation, we should be having another plantation existing in this same site, which is around 20 years old, which could have gone the basic silvicultural treatments up to until the last thinning, now waiting for the rotation time. So KFS or the government has lost 19 years.
Just a few weeks into the lifting of the moratorium, charcoal burning, which had slowed down, began picking up. Sasa makaa biashara imekuwa je, watu wananunua kwa wingi ama ikoje?
Watu wananunua kwa wingi, lakini wengine wanatumia cash.
Na hii makaa nikinunua hivi, nanunua ya 30, kwanza nataka ya 30. Natapika saa hiyo na iishe. Sitaendelea nayo kwa sababu tena jioni itatekana hiyo. Hivyo tu ndio tunaendaga. Maisha yamekuwa ngumu sana, lakini kujikaza tu.
Now that is the sound of life coming back here in this sawmill in Molo sub-county. The owner of this mill says that for 6 years, activities here were frozen, and that freeze affected the lives of people who work here as casual laborers. There is hope that in the coming days, more people will be getting jobs here as activities continue to increase. As forest communities and environmentalists express displeasure with the new developments, sawmillers like Bernard Gitau are happy.
Those environmentalist people, they should come on board and tell us what is wrong with cutting a tree. Uganda is cutting trees. Tanzania is cutting trees, and it is a country like our country. They are doing replanting, they are doing afforestation, and we are doing the same. So they should not, let them not be ignorant of the facts in the ground. We are cutting what is commercial. Cypress was planted as a commercial tree so that it can be in the construction industry and also in the timber industry, and also help in employment. Being a professional person and being in mind, I'm an investor in this industry. I cannot go beyond my allocation because I am controlled by the Kenya Forest Service. And if I am not even controlled, I will only cut what I have paid for, and it ends there.
So when you look at the windfall here, how do you feel?
First of all, as a professional and this man in charge of the Forest Society of Kenya, it is hurting. You feel that there is a forester who is not doing his job. He's sleeping on the job because these trees are supposed to be moved somewhere. They're supposed to be moved even at the station level. Then they do what you call auctioning. Auctioning because the need for timber is not, we cannot equate it. So that you sell it and you have the cheap housing that we are now looking for as a government. So this becomes a waste.
Can you quantify how much has been lost?
For example, if you look at this tree, it has got a diameter of 35 centimeters. The diameter of 35 centimeters of height of about 20, this is equivalent to about 4,000 shillings, if KFS is selling. So the 4,000 shillings that KFS is selling, it sells, but it does not take the money. The money goes back to the economy. The money goes back to the counties. The money goes back to everywhere. So it is losing 4,000 times N, which N here is greater than 1,000 trees, when they would have got the gain from it. So the government talks about wastage. So we end up, you'd rather borrow rather than use what you have. The data on the consumption of timber is scientific. Therefore, we cannot float figures anyhowly as expected. However, timber requirement is known. All of us, we are born, we are conceived on most of our beds that were made on timber. We die and we are buried in coffins made of timber. We cook during these funerals on timber. Everywhere we use timber. So the consumption of timber, the need for timber is really, we cannot really say that it is not, it is something that is really required for this country. The forestry professionals believe that the commercial forest sector is supposed to be the one that drives the economy. Today we talk about the housing agenda. We want a cheap house agenda. How do you have an agenda that talks about building and yet low-cost houses, and yet your own timber is not produced. How can you talk of that, and yet you want to use timber from Uganda and other countries? The 5% timber, which is about 125,000 hectares, the whole country, can be managed sustainably. And the Forest Conservation Management Act is the only law that exists for the purposes of management of forest that has established the bodies that are supposed to take care of these forests.
Warembo, ni nini muhimu kwenu mnaponunua body lotion?
Smoothness, scent, glow.
Nunua nice and lovely body lotion. Inai-transform dry skin kuwa deeply nourished na kui-smoothed. Na fragrance nayo, wacha tu.
Now available in the 850 ml pack.
Chagua Kenya's #1 body lotion.
With Glovo unaweza order chochote na ukipata una celebrate na body yako yote. Because your tasty grilled chicken ikifika, weekend inaanza. Ingredients are your favorite recipe just in time. Na wakati keki inafika ndio sherehe inaanza. Because to get anything on Glovo deserves a dance. Download the app, order anything unataka na we track minute by minute mpaka ikufikie. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
Own your dream home for as low as 1.98 million Kenya shillings in Vipingo Kilifi. SMS Vipingo to 22365 or call us today on 0740 400 215. Terms and conditions apply.
System, then now we come to issues of still the growth rate of the trees, the mortality of the trees, and the rate at which they are harvested. When the rate at which they are harvested is below the rate at which we are experiencing mortality of the ones planted, then that one we can still talk of sustainability. The rate must be low. But when you have a case whereby people harvest indiscriminately at the expense of the mortality of the trees, then that is still not sustainable. And look at, maybe I can post a question. How old are these trees that are harvesting? When you look at a tree that has been cut of over 30 years, and then you replace it by 1 or 2 trees now, you are looking at the next 30 years is when you will be able to harvest. Now, when you look at those technicalities, that is why I still keep that areas that have gazetted forests and the areas that have indigenous forests should be left as they are. They play a major role in the balance within our ecosystem.
On Climate Hackers, we visit Narok County, where the Ewaso Ngiro South Development Authority is popularizing bamboo as a sustainable option to wood that serves the dual purpose of greening the environment and supporting the timber needs of the community. Wow, this bamboo is quite strong, just one stem of it, and it's very, very long, about 20 meters long, around 5'6" and you can see in 5 years it's already past my height, and they can have multiple uses, not just in furniture making but also in clothes, and in some communities when it's still at the shoot level, that's vegetable and it's food. So quite a diverse usage for this plant.
All the species that you see here, because we have around 5, and I can mention them briefly.
Yes, yes.
We have the aspa, that is a giant bamboo, which is this one. Where Tinkoi is, that is called membranaceous. It's bamboo for the lowland areas. Then up there, we have the longitudinal, the long internode, just referred to as the long internode bamboo. It's for the midland. That is an area that is not high, not very low. And then we have the very dry one, the Sinondra, or the one they call the solid bamboo. We have them here because Narok area of jurisdiction
covers the entirety of those different ecological zones. Bamboo can provide forage for the animals. Yeah, they can provide good forage for the animals. Also, they are having items produced at their setups which can be sold, which can be taken to the market. And these are the things like we are saying, the mats, that is we have the carpets, the mats, the window, what do we call them? The window curtains. We also have things like the pen holders, simple artifacts. The pen holders, the lamp shades. All these can be made at the local setup. It only requires capacity, just a little of capacity building that farmer, and it's through the cottages that we intend to establish within the Enzita area of jurisdiction.
Already, the giant bamboo has been used to reclaim 1,500 acres of the Masai Mara forest that had been encroached on by illegal settlers.
It has provided employment. Let's take, for example, here in Naroko town. People in town or small nursery holders in town are coming for bamboo here. We release them at very low prices and they go and sell them. We have also taught groups, especially youth groups and women groups, on how to grow bamboo in their nurseries. And they are doing it as a business. They are doing it as a business. So there is so much, the commercial line of bamboo is huge. So that's why we are treating it as a bamboo, a commercial enterprise within Enzita. We know in their different ways it's touching people differently, economically, and also not to forget the bigger picture of conservation. The bigger picture of conservation. We are talking of the climate change, and we are saying bamboo is the answer to climate change. It's the answer to carbon sinking. Yes, there are so many trees, but we can tell you for sure. When talk of carbon sinking, bamboo stands the best in terms of filtering carbon from the environment and leaving the environment clean of these carbon gases.
Enzita is currently working with 2,000 farmers as outgrowers of bamboo in Narok and Nakuru counties and has 600 acres and a bamboo plantation.
It's now a government policy that most blocks of the Mao ecosystem that have bamboo, they have now been opened for utilization. We know utilization is actually another method of managing bamboo. Bamboo that is not utilized actually dries up and are the sources of forest fires. Now that has been already proved by the researchers, the forests have been opened by the government for utilization. That is the bamboo forests. They have been opened up by the government for utilization, but controlled utilization so that it's not farming like it used to be before. It's utilizing the mature bamboo and allowing the regeneration of new the new farms. So we are not yet there on utilizing what we have already established in Goben. Yeah. We also have the conservation of the riparian lands. The riparian lands are the areas around the rivers. So when we identify our drainage, the drainage pattern within our area of jurisdiction, that is rivers both in Kajiado, Narok, Nakuru, and Nyandarua, we have taken initiatives to plant bamboo in our riparian lands and also in our wetlands. We have done a rehabilitation of the Napiapi, which is the source of Mara River in the Mara. We have done a rehabilitation of Sasumuan Dam, that is in Jambini, in Nyandarua, that actually is the source of the water supply of Nairobi. We have done rehabilitation of Lake Oroborosat. Lake Oroborosat is a dying lake within central Kenya, that is in Nyandarua.